Hello everyone, I would like to welcome you to Art Talk this afternoon, and I would like to talk to you today about The Ecstasy of St. Teresa by Gian Lorenzo Bernini, and he was the master of the Baroque. And I would like to read you an interesting quote by this woman here who is St. Teresa. I saw in his hand a long spear of gold, and the iron point there seemed to be a little fire. He appeared to me to be thrusting it into my heart and to pierce my very entrails. When he drew it out, he seemed to draw them out also with him, leaving me full of fire and with the great love of God. The soul is satisfied now with nothing less than God. The pain is not bodily but spiritual. Though the body has its share of it, it is a caressing love so sweet which now takes place between the soul and God. And I pray that God, in his goodness, will make him who thinks me lying to experience just this. This is St. Teresa. This is her words. She was a Carmelite nun who lived in Spain around the time of the Catholic Reformation. And she practiced regularly spiritual exercises from a very famous saint called Saint Ignatius. And so she was very, very pious, very, very much into God and the Spirit, and she felt the Spirit deeply. So there are a lot of art historians who look at this piece, and let me show you a larger picture of it. This is a picture of it. And they see her face and they think, is this sacred or is it profane? And I'm going to spend these few minutes telling you that this is indeed a sacred work and not profane. And I'm going to tell you how to be able to choose whether or not a piece of art is exactly what the artist intended it to be. There was an art historian named Carolyn Babcock, and she said she looked at St. Teresa's face, and she said there is a melding of sensual and spiritual pleasure. So she was kind of thinking, this is profane. This is a profane work of art. And then there was the flip side of that was an art historian named Robert Hubison, who said a follower of the mystical exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola would have intended to depict here an episode, would never have intended to depict here an episode of lust. He continues, instead, Bernini aims to express facial and body equivalents of someone who is in the state of divine joy. And so there was another art historian way back in the 1800s named Solomon de Brosses, and he said this. He said that he felt that St. Teresa was a profane expression of voluptuousness. Well, I take personal issue with this, because I believe that St. Teresa was absolutely a saint, and she was, in a spiritual sense, really, really feeling what it feels to be pierced in the soul by God. And so I would like to tell you how you can critically choose whether this painting is sacred or profane. So we're going to go to when I spent a year at Harvard University, studied under a really great professor named Ivan Galantic, and this is how he told us to be able to choose critically how a piece of art is good or bad, or if it does what the artist intended it to do. We'll talk about subject, content, and form. Now, subject is a really interesting thing. You look at a piece of art like St. Teresa and you say, is the subject matter clear? This is exactly what the artist wanted it to be, or is it muddy? Do I really understand what this is? And so as you look at St. Teresa, you understand that really the subject matter is quite intact. She is completely believable. And it's a wonderful subject matter of a woman being pricked in the soul by God. So yes, indeed, according to Professor Ivan Galantic from Harvard University, the subject is completely intact. The next part is really tough part. It's called content. Content has to do with the emotion that is present. Now here are, according to ancient Greeks, this is what we look at when we're trying to depict whether or not the emotion is a true emotion. So as you look at Saint Teresa, you think of the three types of love. These are the three types of love and the three ways that we can choose whether or not an emotion is correct. We have agape, which means the unconditional love that you get from God or from a mother or from a father. You have philos, which is the love that one would experience when they have a love of their fellow man. And then we have eros, which is an erotic love or a selfish love. And so as we look at it, at Saint Teresa and her face and her attributes, being pricked in the soul by God, I believe that her emotion, the content of this picture is absolutely agape. She has the pure love of God in her soul. So I believe that as we're looking at this, it is neither philos or eros, it is agape. And then the very last thing we look at as we're figuring out whether or not an art piece is what the artist wants it to be and whether it's a good piece of art is form. Is the piece of art in good form? I will have to say that Bernini was above reproach. He was the most amazing technician of his time. This is done in white marble, and look at the treatment of the folds of the fabric. This was also done in a multimedia situation where he developed a skylight, which I can show you a picture of right here. He developed a skylight so that his work could be seen perfectly as though the rays of God were coming down. This was an incredible piece of art. So as far as subject, content, and form, Bernini did it. He had it. So I'd like to conclude my thoughts on this by saying to you that Bernini's work of Saint Teresa, Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, was an epic work with spiritual meaning. It has been critiqued through history, and some people think it's profane, some people think it's sacred. I will tell you, it is a sacred work of art. If you think of subject, content, and form, Bernini had it all. It was tremendous subject matter. The form, the content was absolutely believable, a woman being pricked by God, the Spirit of God. And the form is above reproach. So that concludes my talk about Bernini and this Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, we'll talk about it after. Thank you.